Bad idea, because then I ended up in the hospital. Or one time, and I've never done that again. I fell asleep. I don't remember where it was. I think I was working when I fell asleep.
Don't see Kennedy. Do see Reagan. Don't see Danielle.
I'm right here.
Where's Danielle? You're right here. Sam was on there. Jennifer's on there. Julia's back. Steven's back. Evie's here. Lucy's here. Or you're going to sit down and take notes.
Can I go get a Pop-Tart first?
You had all this time that you were talking, and you could have done it.
You were busy, so I couldn't ask.
Oh, you could ask me. You could interrupt me.
I didn't even bring a pencil in. All right, I'm doing standing room only again.
If that's comfortable to you.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Hey, so ladies and gentlemen, as it's got 3 days, I'll go monster fast as far as the review goes. We're talking about Neo-Expressionism, especially big in the 70s and 80s. I took a long time last, whenever that was, Friday, to talk about how it goes back to original Expressionism, which was a movement back in the 1930s. It's about being expressive. We said that it is the first really global art movement, at least of the 20th or 21st century. 4 different areas starting simultaneously: Germany, France, United States, and Italy. We talked about this George Baselet, the German. We talked about Ansel Kiefer, another German. It said that he's one that put stuff in his paint. We talked about Robert Comba, this Frenchman. A lot of pop culture and music, rock and jazz and cartoons, clubs. And we kind of ended up with this Italian, Francesco Clemente. And what I was asking you, and hoping that you would have some thoughts on, was this image here. Move this out of the way. And kind of gotten to you that it probably, technique-wise, has to do with thinning out the paint. So they're using watercolor, he's using gouache, which is where you take this regular tempera paint or acrylic paint and thin it out with water. But what we didn't get to, and I was really hoping for more of, is meaning. What could be a possible meaning to this image? Gotcha. Is this like he who will be unnamed, remain unnamed, is on the back of the head of the professor's head? Okay, I didn't say that right. It's on the back of the professor's head. There you go. But there's a head on the back of the head. These are 2 people, right? That's easy enough to figure out. Are they the same person? Are they thinking about each other?
Looks like the Joker.
Think one looks like a Joker? You may see men, you may see, we associate, that's evocative. Yeah, I see 2 women. I see a white woman and an African American, or, well, African Italian, African woman. Yeah, and I don't, it seems to me, you can interpret it your own way. I'm sure Francisco Clemente would probably interpret it a whole nother way. They're seeing past each other. They're not looking at each other. At least that was my view. Here's another Francisco Clemente. What do you think of that? How could you interpret that? What's going on? You 3 have to actually look at it and not just snack.
I wasn't snacking. I had to see if I had enough money to go to dairy school.
Why is there like 3 people?
That's what I'm asking
There's
you.
actually 4 people, 5 people, 6 people,
Wait,
2
what?
fours. There's 6 people.
They have it in the nose too. Ew.
And the ear.
Ew.
Not window though.
That was corny.
That's corny.
Yeah, is he on a bus or in a van or on a train, maybe?
It looks like he's on a train. No, airplane. It looks like he's up in the sky.
Are these
But those windows in the airplane
Looks
are
like he's dead, so he's in a studio apartment.
voices in his head? Could he be possessed? Could he be suffer from multiple personality disorder or schizophrenia? So they're not all him, they're all different people, but they're hallucinations.
And I have a perfect song for that picture.
What's your song?
Lucid Dreams by Juice WRLD.
Do you think Lucid Dreams by Juice WRLD would go with this Francisco Clemente painting?
That's the only song I can really think of when I look at that picture.
How about the light color above and to the right of the head? Is it just, yeah, is it a highlight? So that we don't just see the darkness of the bus, or it kind of balances the composition? Or, yeah, is it like a halo?
Whoa, he's not in the air, Danielle. What makes you think he's in the
Or
air?
is on fire?
Do you not see that thing right there, which shows he's not in the air?
It looks like
There's something real small that you see. Looks like he's in a mansion, you know, up on the top building.
Well, airplane windows usually are kind of portals. They're a little more rounded. This is more a little bit like a window, it's squares. Okay, well, if we don't have any further interpretations, which I mean, that's really the goal here, thinking, moving on to this American, Philip Guston. Remember, I got invoke, evoke, and provoke. Ordinarily, the pink might invoke happy mood, bright, childlike. What is evocative, though? There you go. This cartoon seems to be of a member of the Ku Klux Klan, and seems to be drawing or painting another Klansman, or maybe it's a self-portrait. Somehow he's cut a hole in his hood so he can have his cigarette. One hand is holding up a cigarette, the other hand is holding a paintbrush.
It is the KKK.
I don't think, really, the Klan is into legalized marijuana.
Yes. Well, nothing against white people, like, if you're white people. Have you seen the movies? I mean, have you seen the movies? Everybody is all about losing.
Here's something that I want to. Oops. This one is terrific too, but I got a film on him if I can find it. Philip Guston. Okay. So here's a photo of him. Oh, so much for seeing the photo. There's the photo of Philip Guston and some of his other works. Well, you'd be old too if you were born in 1913. So what are all of these? What are, this looks like boots. Okay, he's got all kinds of boots piled up. City limits. 3 Klansmen driving into the city, I guess. Man. Well, as soon as you can get it to me, if you're talking about the last painting. Yeah. Okay. This is not of Julian Schnabel. This is by Julian Schnabel. Julian is a male. Yeah, if you read what it says on here, though, and then you look back at his painting, you start looking at it a little bit closer. Because he painted with plates. I don't want to zoom in so that you can't see the words anymore, but I do want to zoom in a little bit more so you can make out.
It looks like paper and
I can email it to you, but it should be. Look for a folder on street art, and it should be in that folder, probably toward the bottom. Yeah, this guy, Julian Schnabel guy. I don't know if you could say he got acclaim. I guess some people liked what he did, and he got some acclaim. Certainly got some fame. He got a lot of criticism because his thing was to break china, break plates and cups and saucers, and glue them or epoxy them onto a board or a canvas, and then paint on top of that. So that was the thing that made him famous. And so people kind of ridiculed Neoexpressionism, let alone Julian Schnabel, because they're like, no, this is too much of anything goes. This is what, he's getting famous because he glues broken dishes onto his canvas. I'm not here to defend it. That's kind of why I went backwards and showed you some of the stuff that Banksy got away with, and then the crazy stuff that Mr. Brainwash got away with, thinking he was imitating Banksy. And so they came from somewhere. And so I don't know where I lie with this. I know that one of my favorite cartoonists, Gary Trudeau in Doonesbury, had a whole story arc about his main character, Mike Doonesbury, was living in New York, and he was a copywriter or advertising artist, and he'd been a hippie and lived in a commune and all of that, and protested stuff in the 60s. But now in the 80s, he married his college girlfriend, and she was this famous New York village artist, and she did this weird stuff like Schnabel did. And like I say, some people thought, wow, isn't that amazing? And he's definitely breaking convention. It's not your ordinary painting. But other people were, why is this art? Oh, and maybe you're in there too. Here's one of the most famous neo-expressionists from the United States. And this guy totally influenced that whole street art movement because he started that similar way. So Keith Haring is in New York, and instead of the usual tagging or graffiti, and a lot of times he used a brush and not an aerosol can, but he didn't use what is the word I'm looking for? Templates like Banksy or Shepard Fairey. But his style here was really childlike and really simple, kind of stick figures without faces on them. And his themes were community and love and happiness. Not what you expect from the mean streets and the subways of New York. It wasn't all that dark kind of thing. But again, the way that he kind of got into the mainstream art world was people loved his stuff, enjoyed his stuff, started asking where can they get his stuff. And so he went from things in alleys and walls of buildings that didn't belong to him to t-shirts and merchandise and canvases and boards and inside of people's buildings, and deliberately being commissioned to do murals on buildings instead of stuff just being considered vandalism. Really kind of fit in. He's white, LGBTQ, and yet it's really embraced by the hip hop movement. So street culture in Brooklyn and New York and Harlem, and they love this stuff. I want to read you a quote. You don't have to write this down. lot of our stuff is kind of blocking it. You may have seen Keith Haring stuff before, but you hadn't heard his name. You didn't know who did this. Maybe it's shown up on like PBS, or it's been way back in the 90s when it was featured in different people's music videos. But, you know, again, in merchandising, and you can buy prints and stuff of his stuff. I love what he says here. The best reason to paint is there is no reason to paint. I'd like to pretend that I've never seen anything. Never read anything, never heard anything, and then make something. You can almost kind of see that, right? How childlike and fresh. And again, we're not looking up here. Isn't that boring, really? And why do you got your case like that? Am I not supposed to see your phone or something? Does you have a little wall? Okay. You're just sitting there having your snacks. Anyway, let me get back on this quote instead of being distracted by why she's, I don't know why she needs to have her Chromebook case up like that, but can you imagine? What would you make if you'd never seen anything before, if you've never read anything before, if you've never heard anything before? What would you make? Yeah, would it be blank? Would it be uninformed? Would it be completely fresh and something totally from you? Myself too, I'm guilty of this too. It's not like it's just kids, but an awful lot of us, we got to find something. We got to find something on Pinterest. We got to find something on Google image search so we can copy. You know, I can't draw without looking at something, which is cool. Although my drawing students are tired of having to look at things and draw them. They want to draw whatever they want. But then when you give people that freedom, they don't bring it from their imagination. They go look at somebody else's picture. But think about that. Look at what he's got, and isn't it more? It's almost like cave paintings, except for the funky bright colors. The best reason to paint is that there's no reason to paint. I'd like to pretend that I've never seen anything, never read anything, never heard anything, and then make something. Every time I make something, I think about the people who are going to see it. And every time I see something, I think about the person who made it. And I've heard one of you, I don't know if it was Eli or Matthew or who had said this. Nothing is important. So everything is important. And I've heard kids say something around like that because, I don't know, I've heard, I think it's astrophysicist Degrassi Tyson, why can't I remember his first name, has said something along those lines. The reason you're so special is because none of us are special. That's what makes us all so special. Surely you've seen some of these kinds of, didn't mean to jump. I meant for you to be able to take a look at some of these and think about them. And so there's one, well, all of these are dancing. You ever seen people in the 80s or 90s do break dancing or popping, breaking and popping? Yeah, there's some of these that it looks like it's one person, but really it's like two that are bumping into each other, or three. Although he's also into dolphins. That's a little bit weird. See this one, third one down on the far right. Are those 5 people, or are they 4 fingers and a thumb? Now, there's some dogs or wolves barking. The one that is real famous, without the people underneath it, but so 1, 2, 3 over from the left, and second row, so third column, second row. It's like a little blue baby, but it's these green people in a crowd, and it's kind of like you're crowd surfing at a concert. But just that little baby crying is a real popular one of his. So that he do these over and over again, and they probably had a little bit of Dada or surrealism to them, that he's just on autopilot. automatism. He's just kind of making it up as he goes along. There's an artist out there now that calls himself Mr. Doodle. Well, I'm going to take a second. Now, definitely Keith Haring is the original. I wonder if this guy has any videos. Don't worry, they're sped up. And it's not Mr. Noodle. Ah, here we go. That's nuts, right? He's doodled all over his clothing, you know, and then he's drawing all over this wall. And really, you know, I can't prove it, and I'm not trying to accuse him of copying or cheating or anything, but I really think that he was inspired by Keith Haring. Look, it's only 1 minute, so you can live with this. Of course, well, that 6 seconds is the ad, the stupid political ad we have to live through. 3, 2, 1. So it's probably in some mall somewhere. And the thing is, really, like, he's got this in his head. I don't know. I think he kind of makes it up as he goes, you know, and continues to fill it in. I don't know why we're buffering when we're only halfway through and it's only a 1 minute thing. Oh, I like there's oh, pretty son. Yeah, and you're kind of in a cartoon world because everything has eyes, not just little creatures and people. Oh, let's finish this guy by giving him a hand. So that's an artist that's working today that is kind of, I'm convinced, is inspired by one of these neo-expressionists. But Keith Haring died mid-early.
Hello there, I'm Mr. Doodle, and today I'm going to be doing a big doodle on this wall. And you can do this at your house too. You just got to get some paper and put it on the wall and use some masking tape to hold it up. And here we go. Okay, so what we're going to start with is the big oval, and I'm going to make this into a guy. The little guy with two eyes and a nose. Maybe he's a businessman. This is a little businessman with a buttoned shirt, and he's holding a briefcase. Because this businessman's off to work today, and he's going to do some spectacular work at his office. It's a Monday morning, and he's feeling very cheery. He's off to work, and he's going to maybe get a promotion because he's done very well recently.
Sounds like a children's show host. I don't know. I'd have to do more research on Mr. Doodle, but Kenny Scharf, I think that's how you say his name, and he combined stuff. He started out with that real stringy and graffiti-esque looking stuff, but he would get up there on what do you call that? Like when you're painting a house, scaffolding, and just go at it. I don't know if he only used aerosol cans because some of his stuff is so complex and complicated and sophisticated that I really wonder if he doesn't bring like a air compressor and a bunch of they're called air guns. What's the name? Oh, anyway, yeah, but just really kind of take some of that 1930s cartoon feel, like Betty Boop and the original Mickey Mouse, make it 3D and make it colorful, and there's wild creatures, you know, a little surreal too. So this blue monster has got a whole, almost like a Dr. Seuss landscape with clouds and stuff inside of his mouth. Yeah. Wow, it makes me sad that it's a short period and you're looking at pictures is all you have to do. And so many of you Well, not you. You're all. That's cool. Anyway, so here you have a bit of an idea of some of his scale, some of the size. So we do have almost anything goes, but you don't have to try and make it look like street art. It doesn't have to look like graffiti this time. Okay. 3 things that I keep wanting you to try to attempt. Use your color or your shading to invoke a mood. Use some images or symbols that hopefully are going to evoke associations for people or meanings, and maybe provoke somehow. It doesn't have to be provocative, doesn't have to be shock or scared or naughty or anything like that, but just, maybe you're inspiring people. The thing about, and you can say they're really silly, but Keith Haring and Mr. Doodle, that maybe they have a little bit in common with the Bob Ross or Mr. Rogers is, yeah, why do we make fun of that? Why can't we let people be kind and childlike? And can we be inspired by that kind of a thing? But provoke reaction, thought, discussion, maybe call to arms, take some action. Here is, and you don't have to necessarily write these down, but I think what I'll do is I'll end up maybe copying these and pasting them in the assignment when I post it on Schoology. Maybe 2 days, especially when one of them is shortened, isn't going to be enough. I can give you a quiz on Thursday over all of these. And actually, if you wrote this down like notes, this could be almost like a review sheet instead of, anyway, I said you don't have to write it down, and you don't, but because this is really more like the assignment. This is some ideas. It can be cartoony. I don't know how I feel about Klansmen, unless you're making fun of those Klansmen, but Guston and Sharf and Kumba are all guys that did really kind of cartoony stuff. You heard me saying over and over again when we were looking at his stuff, and now would be the time of year to do it because corn harvest is just about done. Snow is melting, so there's lots of leaves and sticks. If you want to glue or paint some actual stuff, some things into your make a fall landscape, but have some fall colors that are not just your paint, but they're things that you pick up outside. It's an idea. Have a nice Tuesday.
All right, see you tomorrow, Mr. Mallory.
Adios.
7th hour.
See you later.
8th hour.
What? We have to check in with this.
Who doesn't love alcohol?
I love it. I did it. It was so good. I'm straight hardcore every.
Don't hurt anybody.
I won't. I'll just hurt myself. Oh, okay.
Good morning.
I'll be right back, Miss Mallory.
I'm guessing JC might be going on Zoom.
Yeah, she will or won't.
She probably will.
Okay.
I have to know.
How she's going to do this, I don't know. She's getting really. Well, did you check yourself?